Prince Harry's ultimate shame as he puts the Kardashians before the veterans who he claims to care most about. Prince Harry seems fed up of being paraded and unable to stage a rictus grin as he and populous Meghan visit Kris Jenner's 70th on the eve of Remembrance Sunday. Just hours later, King Charles would be in tears at that event. So this is quite an extraordinary downfall. And what's very clear to me, and you can see it in the paparazzi footage as Prince Harry leaves this event, is that he's not happy about it. As for Miss Markle, we know that she didn't wear a poppy on purpose because she tells the Daily Mail they're not widely available. But by the way, the thing that is actually so mortifying, look at Kris Jenner's post on Instagram immediately after the party. And this is why you know how much the stock of Harry and Meghan has fallen. I think there are the maximum of 20 pictures in this slideshow, including a gurning Mariah Carey, a whole load of celebrities who I don't even know. Gayle King, she made the mix. Not one glimpse of the royal couple. Because the reality is that in Hollywood, they're not royalty anymore. They're on the D list. So they may get the invite, but they're not on the Snoop Dogg or Oprah Winfrey level. And let me also just show you, this was a 2-event night for Meghan, but only one outfit. She attended the Serena Williams function before heading to Kardashian HQ, where Harry, again, managed not much more than a grimace. Brittany, quite extraordinary optics, given Harry claims, and remember he wrote that personal note last week saying he cares nothing more, Brittany, than the British veterans. And then on our most important day, Remembrance Sunday, he goes to a tacky party with the Kardashians. He can't even bother to procure his disrespectful wife a goddamn poppy. It's a stinking new low.
It really is, Dan, because you have to think Meghan has worn poppies pretty much every November. I mean, she even wore one to lunch with a friend a year or two ago, and yet somehow it magically disappears now and she can't find one. I just call complete BS on that. And when it comes to this party and comparing it to the actual working royals, all you can think is excess and versus service. So the royals are serving the people, they are remembering the fallen, and Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are just there to indulge in the excess that those royal titles give them. Meghan Markle by herself, Harry just Windsor, without all the trappings of royalty, are nothing in that industry. They have achieved nothing. They have done nothing. Everything they've touched has basically turned to ruin. And so they are there just for the optics and just for Meghan Markle. Meghan Markle loves this. She loves the paparazzi. Harry claims to hate it, and yet he goes along with it, proving that Harry has really no pull or say in that relationship. He does everything on behalf of his wife. But I did find it very funny, Dan, like you showed, that Kris Jenner, she could have picked anyone to put in those pictures, and she did not choose one with Harry and Meghan. So I just don't think they had the pull they think they do. They get invited to the parties, but is anybody relying on them to help make them money? The answer is absolutely not. But they do get headlines.
Yeah, they're so far down the pecking order. It's interesting, Brittany, though, because even some defenders of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are not liking what they saw over the weekend, Brittany. But what do you think in terms of what Tom Sykes is saying there about the fact that yet again, it just feels like these two ignore any form of sensible advice?
Well, when you think about Harry and his meeting with his father just 2 months ago, he claimed, oh, we're just going to try to avoid the diaries clashing. I'm going to share my diary with you. And then, of course, he does something which he knows is in the royal calendar for sure. And he goes along with his wife to this very overly opulent bash. The optics are just terrible and horrible on every stretch of the imagination. But Harry, at this point, he is beholden to whatever Meghan Markle wants to do. And he just doesn't seem to have that pull. And she definitely does not have the self control to not indulge her worst impulses when it comes to attention seeking. Meghan Markle always wants to be the center of attention. She wants the cameras on her. This is why she married Harry. It's why she was looking for a rich, famous husband, because she couldn't gain this pull on her own. Everything is at because of the man she married. And Harry was too dim to understand that. And now he's living probably in many ways his worst nightmare, but he married it. Like that, this is the end result of that chaos. And I'm sure he has some high points and some low points, but this is definitely just absolutely terrible. It destroys everything he did in Canada that week. And is just completely unfathomable that they would not understand how bad the optics are here. But again, Meghan wants to see the flashbulbs, so they have to do it.
What's interesting, though, Brittany, is that Tom Sykes actually believes that this is becoming more and more unsustainable, this clash between Meghan and Harry over their values. And why I think that's fascinating is because, sure, people like me have been talking about quite how destructive the relationship now is. But remember, Tom Sykes very much has a foot in the Markle camp. But he's now reporting this.
Oh, yes. Dan, when it comes to marriage and relationships, especially long-term ones, you really have to have a lot of things in common, hobbies and interests and those sorts of things. Not everything, but you do need to have a lot of things and a good foundation for what are your shared values. But we see where I think Meghan has talked about the value of privacy and these sorts of things. I think we all know it's a smoke screen for what she really wants, which is absolute control over her image. And so she does that in particular ways and forces Harry to parade himself around the paparazzis when he's previously said that it's PTSD for him to see those camera flashes and to think of his mom. And I can imagine that being true. And so for his wife to not have any sympathy for his experiences and just continue to draw him out so she can go to these parties, because again, they're getting that invitation because of him, not her. I just think it's unbelievably cruel. And between that and all the strife with his family, and you see this sort of kind of clash, this bipolarness with Harry, where he really wants to be royal and British again and everything. And yet he still continues to sort of indulge in this Americana lifestyle and this fame and fortune of Hollywood. You see just this inevitable clash of, I think, personality and I think purpose in life. I think Harry is directionless. I think he doesn't really have a greater vision for what he wants to be. And he doesn't really have a job anymore, it seems like, either. And so the guy is just kind of puttering around trying to find meaning in his life. And he lets his wife dictate far, far too much of that. And you get these inevitable clashes. These are not going to get better. And again, Harry undermined his entire tour with Canada by going to that Kardashian party. It's like, does he care at all about the work he's doing? I don't think so. Is he chasing the cameras as much as his wife? Probably. And it's just going to end up in a mess. And I think they're going to inevitably tear each other apart because I think they want very different things out of life.
Yeah, I think that's so far down their own rabbit hole, Brittany. They can't actually understand how obvious things are for us. Like, for example, and Meghan's mole pointed this out, William, who has really taken to wearing these double-breasted velvet blazers and did so, by the way, in Rio for the Earthshot Prize last week, immediately copied by Prince Harry at the big night out. And of course, as Meghan's mole says, let it be known, Harry never wore velvet blazers until William did first. And the thing is, Brittany, we know that that is a small sartorial decision, but it all comes with a deeper meaning.
It really does, Dan. And when you think about Harry and particularly his PR team, it's like even the whole announcement of the tour to Canada, they're like, oh, we had to wait to announce it because of, he doesn't get treated like basically his brother. And I'm like, well, of course he doesn't. They don't have the same status anymore. What are you talking about? And they're like, he's not competing. It's like, but he looks like he's competing. This is all about optics. And I think Harry's PR team and Harry himself are just not cognizant enough to go, hey, it looks like we're constantly trying to compete with William and Catherine. Hey, yes, you chose that velvet blazer, but maybe change it up for this event. Because again, everybody's looking for it now because Harry and Meghan have trained us to look for it. And so every time we see these things, because they've happened so frequently, it's hard not to draw comparisons. And so I think Harry himself would do so many favors by just trying to recognize that and adjusting in due course. But he just can't seem to think to. He just, I think, wants to be as important as his brother. He's desperate for that. And he inevitably just steps his foot in it all the time, attempting to compete. And it's just so incredibly obvious. Harry might think he's being subtle, but he's not by any stretch of the imagination.
Brittany, the far more significant moment, and the moment which actually quite chillingly Prince Harry would have hated most over the weekend, was Prince George emerging for really what comes close to his most official formal function as a royal, a future working royal, at the Royal Albert Hall ahead of Remembrance Day on Saturday night. Huge poignancy here, Brittany. William was not back in time from Brazil. This was long planned. But given Charles's very obvious health struggles, which are there laid bare, I mean, you only had to see how ill he looked on Saturday night. And this I find really upsetting, actually, because there's certainly a sense, Brittany, that as we get further into this cancer battle, the king is almost leaning into his vulnerabilities and his mortality. But of course, the fact that William was effectively replaced at that event by his son, the heir to the heir, I think had deeper significance, given everything going on. What did you make of it, Brittany?
Well, it's definitely an interesting thought, Dan, because Prince George participating did surprise me. I thought this was an event he would do in his later teens or kind of very early in his working royal career, because Catherine and William have done things with their children, I would say, very differently than some of their continental counterparts. Some of especially the Spanish, I would say, and the Swedes, like their children are very involved in quite a lot of large events. And so George appearing here did surprise me, but at the same time, it does make sense because the working royal fold in the UK has definitely gotten so much smaller. And I think they will need George, Charlotte, and Louis to be, I think, huge aspects of the monarchy. I mean, they truly are the future. And so to have George there, I think, cements the continuity of the monarchy. And so I think that was important there, shows him as the heir to the heir and how that the future of the monarchy is secure in that way. And so I thought it was lovely that he attended. I think, that's a good age to start attending these style events. But at the same time, it was definitely a little bit of a surprise as well, but just a happy one too. It was very sweet to see him at that event and being there with his mom, being very serious. He definitely has, sort of first child energy. So it was good to see him there though.
It was, and Tom Sykes has really been on this story about the quiet transition which is going on. And he agreed with me on the optics, Brittany. He wrote The Future on display. Prince George steps into his role beside the king. And then we move to the event the next day, Brittany. And the imagery was so upsetting, actually, that the Metro even ran with the headline "Tears of the Crown" on its front page. It's very clear that Charles is feeling the emotion of these moments, not surprisingly. And I have huge humanity given what he's going through towards him.
Yes, he's had a couple of very difficult years with the death of his father and then his mother. And then obviously the break with Harry and Meghan has been, I'm sure, a great burden as well. And then you top it all off with his cancer battle, in addition to the cancer battle of his daughter-in-law. And all of those things weigh so heavily. And I think it makes these moments so much more poignant, because I think you feel the weight of that mortality, I think, even more in many ways. And obviously, we don't know the exact status of his cancer battle there, but obviously, with him continuing to undergo treatments, it is quite concerning. And I'm sure he was really hoping for the first years of his reign to be very robust, and to unfortunately have this sort of cancer setback, I'm sure is something that has been deeply impactful, and I'm sure deeply it's been a big struggle for him and a big disappointment in many ways. And so the future of the monarchy is secure, but at the same time, I think Charles wishes in many ways he had more time. But we shall see. They're making great strides in cancer treatments. But yes, you feel the emotion at this event. The veterans, and I'm sure losing a lot of the World War II veterans is a deep moment as well.
I want to show you a little bit more of Tom Sykes's analysis, Brittany, on this emergence of Prince George. I mean, Brittany, you're not going to hear this in the mainstream media. You're not going to hear it from the Royal Rota, but Tom Sykes is right on this, because remember, William did not intend to have George at major events like this at his age. And we're not going to see much of him, okay? William is utterly stoic on that point. But, you know, I hate to put it like this, Brittany, but the succession timetable is being sped up.
It really does look like it is, Dan. And I think you're completely right there. And so is Tom Sykes, because they're trying to definitely start to pull in this a bit more. And again, I see comparisons to the European counterparts, because most of the time when someone becomes king and queen, let's say in the Netherlands or Spain or Belgium, the children are actually still minors. And so oftentimes you do see them start to flow into events more and more, especially as they get a bit older, because they are basically the heir. And so they'll be young teenagers now, or even children, and they're doing some of these larger events. So I do think we're seeing Prince George being very much poised here as the future Prince of Wales, getting people ready for probably this change that is going to occur. Nobody, of course, is wanting this to occur so quickly, because the pressure on the British is of course so much greater than any other of their counterparts. But at the same time, it's hard to avoid the inevitable, that it just does seem to look like George will most likely inherit the title Prince of Wales, although of course that is a title given by his father, so he may just become Duke of Cornwall for a short while. But that may pass when he's still a minor. He has 6 years until he's 18. And so that's just a sort of sad reality of the situation. And I'm sure something that Catherine and William, of course, especially given Catherine's own cancer battle, are not really looking forward to that additional stress and pressure on their family. So I think we'll see George here and there more, maybe a bit of Charlotte as well. But this is definitely a sign, I think, of things to come.
Meghan Markle and Prince Harry may have just suffered one of the most humiliating Hollywood rejections yet. And the people allegedly keeping their distance? Now think about how bad your PR situation has to become for even that crowd to allegedly say, no thanks. Now let's break down why this story is exploding online. Reports and celebrity gossip circles are buzzing with claims that Meghan and Harry have struggled to fully integrate into Hollywood's elite power networks. And according to critics, the alleged Kardashian distance speaks volumes. Because the Kardashians don't reject relevance. They monetize relevance. They practically invented modern celebrity PR strategy. So if even they allegedly see the Sussex brand as too controversial, too unstable, or too exhausting, that's politically devastating in Hollywood terms. And honestly, many critics believe Harry and Meghan's Hollywood problem is becoming impossible to hide. At first, the Sussexes arrived in California with enormous hype. But over time, the mood shifted. Instead of inspirational freedom stories, critics say the brand became dominated by conflict, grievances, lawsuits, and endless royal drama. And Hollywood hates one thing more than controversy. Now let's talk about Kris Jenner specifically. Because Kris Jenner is arguably one of the most successful image managers in entertainment history. She understands branding better than almost anyone alive. And critics online are now joking. If Kris Jenner allegedly can't fix the Sussex image problem, maybe nobody can. That's how severe some people believe the Harry and Meghan PR collapse has become. And here's the uncomfortable truth many royal commentators now openly discuss. Harry and Meghan entered Hollywood expecting royal status to automatically guarantee elite celebrity power. But Hollywood has its own hierarchy, its own power system, its own loyalty networks. And unlike monarchy, Hollywood only values one thing long-term: commercial usefulness. If audiences become tired of you, the industry quietly moves on. Now critics are calling this the ultimate shame, for one major reason. Because Harry and Meghan spent years distancing themselves from the royal family to become independent global celebrity power players. That was the vision. That was the billion-dollar dream. But if major Hollywood figures are now allegedly avoiding association with them, critics argue the entire strategy may be unraveling publicly. And once Hollywood starts sensing weakness, it becomes incredibly difficult to reverse the narrative. And this may be the biggest issue of all for Harry and Meghan. Public trust is fading. Every new PR campaign gets dissected instantly online. Every appearance gets accused of image management. Every emotional interview gets questioned. And critics believe audiences now view the Sussex brand less as authentic and more as carefully choreographed celebrity activism. That perception shift is extremely dangerous in entertainment and media. Look, maybe these Hollywood rejection stories are exaggerated. Maybe Harry and Meghan are doing perfectly fine privately. But publicly the optics are becoming brutal. Because when even celebrity PR royalty like the Kardashians are rumored to be keeping their distance, people start wondering whether the Sussex brand has entered serious decline. And in Hollywood, perception often becomes reality astonishingly fast. What do you think? Are Harry and Meghan genuinely losing influence in Hollywood? Or is this just another exaggerated celebrity gossip storm?